It's in line with what I was saying earlier, from technology to business. And our last speaker will focus on the business side. We'll focus on how the IoT can be a way for corporates and big companies to tackle challenges around IoT. And we're actually very proud to have them today because one of the announcements we've released today is a partnership with the company called Roland Berger, a leading consultancy company coming from Europe. And with them, we'll work together to go and see big corporates, C-levels, to explain them, not the technology side, but the power of the IoT from the business side that needs to be changed into something technical in the end. But start with the business needs, start with the challenge, and then find solution and work on solution. And that's what we call ultra value, the partnership we're making with Roland Berger. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome on stage a partner from Roland Berger, Johan Ditsch.
Thank you very much. So, thank you very much for having me. As said, my name is Johan Ditsch. I'm a partner at Roland Berger and I'm responsible for digital transformation for IoT Industry 4.0 and also everything that is connected with organizational change corresponding to these huge changes. And I was asked to have this final conversation here on the topic, how do we see the IoT ecosystem and how this some sort of really translates into business and what are the current things that we are discussing with our clients, but also with the technology partners and what we see worldwide. And the interesting part is, from my point of view, and I just did a very long, some sort of experience travel around the world, that most of the times when you discuss this point of IoT and how to transform it into business models, at least if you come to a B2B perspective and discussing this with B2B partners, the only answer in there for the business model and the business case is something like because of data. And that's some sort of also a huge hurdle for going forward, because as we all know, the last years, the digital transformation has changed everything coming from an end user perspective. And this is now leaping over to the industry and is reshaping the industries and redefining how we see our world and what we expect also from the ecosystems that we live in. And if you just think of what you see here in a very simplified form for connected mobility, how this has changed from the perception that it's just a car to the value that is now given by the shared services, by the shared mobility services that come along with that. You see already the first boundaries that you need to overcome to get all these things to talk to each other. And this is now also translating to other sectors of the industry. So, for instance, to smart home, where we now expect that all our devices are connected to each other, where we also expect that we have seamless integration, and we really don't care if your Samsung television does not talk to your refrigerator anymore. So you just really expect that they do it, and you don't want to care about that. And so this goes forth and forth. This goes from smart buildings, where you say, okay, how do you talk about the plants? How do you facilitate the logistics within it? How do you really connect the personal management systems to the logistics systems? And you really expect to have this seamlessly. And you have also expected all the services that are connected to this in terms of data analytics are just happening. You don't want to think about this. And that's a huge change, and that's also a huge problem, because when I'm talking to my clients, most of them are now saying, no, I want to be the single one only platform for what are entry solutions in trains. And I need to build this ecosystem. I need to connect my devices. I need to build this up. And if you just think about the fragmentation that this now brings into the market, you already see the problem in connecting all this stuff and also bringing all the business models together and also creating value out of this. However, we personally believe that this market is huge and it's exploding. We expect it in a conservative view to grow at least a 25% CAGR until 2021. And I want to draw your attention to something that you see here in this yellow box, and I call it the market extension to unknown business models. So if you just recall so the classic example of Uber operating in San Francisco, where the taxi market is just 100 million US dollars, and they now operate with 500 million US dollars. You see business models just evolving out of the blue, where you have not thought about yet, and this is a huge uplift in everything that you would think about IoT. But to get to this and to really get the value out of these extra markets and these extra points, we really need to overcome the corresponding fragmentation in the market. So, to my point of view, and I'm maybe a bit sharp, so I think that the horizontal platforms that are needed to enable communication between all these different horizontals and all the different services are still evolving. So, coming from the product view to the view of systems, where you have the interconnections of mobility services, aviation systems, so that you really understand, okay, how can I get from A to B, and how can I get any business case and any value out of this chain. That's a huge change in thinking for the organizations that most of the times are built up in a product view, and are now needed to think in some sort of B2C ecosystems, B2C use cases, and how to transform them into their business models. And actually, if you think also from the supplier's perspective, just to make the devices active or the services active is just currently an additional cost item. So as long as you don't have any services really sold to your customer, why would you really install this and make from a passive device? Why would you make it to an active device? And this is a discussion that you really need to overcome, but it's not so easy because, as I said, everyone is now trying to build their own ecosystem. I think that the suppliers and the overarching ecosystem builders have understand this already, but if you just discuss it with a market leader in the segments, they want to build it by themselves still. And so what we really need is a new view on how to build this horizontal ecosystems and then enable vertical integration of communication between the different industries and the different systems, because we need to understand that the future is built as we know it from our B2C view. So we are used to the fact that everything is just connected in one single device, and your iPhone at your Android phone. So everything here, so this is some sort of the already existing horizontal platform, and you just choose what's your Gmail account, what's your your email application, what is your payment application, and the non-existing boundaries in this vertical and horizontals for B2C is something that really needs to also to be thought of in this area of IoT, where you now need to think from this customer and end perspective and this end user perspective to define the final business cases and to find the business models. And also the interesting part is when I even discuss this with my own colleagues, and I brought you here with what you see is some slides from our industry colleagues that are talking about train systems, that are talking about manufacturing plant systems. They are really also discussing with their clients how to build their ecosystems in this industries for this industry solution. But as long as we don't overcome this, some sort of silo thinking, and really understand, okay, how to foster horizontal and vertical communication, the end business case and the payback in terms of revenues is still something that is maybe yeah, something you need to strive for. And I'm always saying to my colleagues, let us use some sort of the digital idea of B2C to now build this also for B2B. Let us now overcome these hurdles and don't think in silos. Try to connect, try to build the platforms, and try to think in joint use cases, because then you really will see the revenues. And for us as Roland Berger, and that's also why we created the partnership with Sigfox, is that building up the communication, or at least the communication channels to enable vertical and horizontal communication is the first step for larger and more valuable ecosystems in the future. So I think that's the way forward. So thank you very much for your attention. And yeah, if you want to we can have a separate discussion. Thank you very much.